Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to the final Symbaroum stream of the year for us, and the final stream at all of the year for us. Before we begin, I should flag that I am very tired and still in the grips of some kind of gift from Grandfather Nurgle. So if I have even less lucidity than normal, I'm going to use that as an excuse. Whether it applies or not, it's definitely because of that, and not because I just don't really know what I'm doing, even after doing this for years. Right, before we start bringing on people for recaps and the like, let's get that promo out of the way. If you check down below this video, you'll find a number of links to YouTube, links to Twitch. You're watching this on one, please check us out on the other site. All of our live streams are on Twitch. All of our video on demand is on YouTube. There's hours of the stuff over there now. If you want to take a browse, I'm sure there'll be something to interest you. There's also links to our Discord, our Patreon, our social media. If those are the kind of things you like on the internet, then go take a look at those. We generally run 2 weekly streams at the moment. Symbaroum is on Wednesdays. Vaesen is on Mondays, although Vaesen have had their last stream of the year. They'll be picking up again sometime in early January. We will be picking up Symbaroum again 2 weeks from tonight. We're only taking a week off, I believe, and then we will be back with you. We also run one-shots monthly, various different systems, lovely little self-contained games. We actually didn't run one this month because of various boring technological problems, which I won't get into here, which means that January should be a 2 one-shot month, both from me and both sequels to stuff we've done before. So we should be getting Alien and The One Ring in January. It's great. I didn't want to do anything like sleep or enjoy myself or do spend time with loved ones and hobbies in January anyway. So instead, I will be planning 2 one-shots at once. There we go. Lovely. Okay, let's start wheeling on these clueless maggots and needless. So needless. They can give some recaps as to what's happened last week. First up, we have Sam. Sam plays Ascarai, Changeling Ranger, Scout, all-round boaster.
All-around clueless maggot, apparently. Just
now Sam, I meant it for all of you. Not just you.
Yeah, we had a good session last time. I think we picked it up just as we were kind of getting back to Kavosti, maybe like not quite up the trail along the cliff yet. And as we were heading back, we saw returning a figure on a colossi, which is something we've seen before outside the walls of Thistlehold. And I think at least someone in the party recognized that this was probably a keeper, which is kind of a head witch from one of the clans coming to Kavosti, which is some kind of omen, a good or a bad one, who's to say, but we carried on up the trail. And at some point, what we believe to be another keeper appeared on the trail, being carried in a palanquin. I don't know if that's the right word, but I feel like it might be. And we kind of all made way, and they carried on up the trail past us into Kavosti. While this was happening, we were thinking about what we wanted to do. We had all these options from Brother Bartho, and I think our main concern, following Stio, as always, was to go and get a drink and have a bit of a discussion once we were up in Kavosti about what we wanted to do next. You're on mute.
God, I thought I'd unmuted myself, but I'd muted myself. To talk about what did happen next, let's bring on Stephen. Stephen plays Alindra, former Templar novice turned hitter of things with big, sharp objects. Stephen, discussions were had. Democracy was had, almost.
I mean, yeah, whatever passes for democracy in the depths of Davokar. I don't know.
Yeah, not like here, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Topical.
No democracy among maggots.
No, yeah. So we discussed like clueless maggots, the possible places that we could go next. So, like, our main lead came from Brother Bartho, who had spent some time with Elmendra on a quest out to a place called Fria Ligan. Some ruins to the northeast of Carvosti. So yeah, that's so Elmendra had found something there, but had also awakened something that should have been left sleeping. So that was a place that we could go to see if we could also find the thing that she'd found. She'd also mentioned a particularly bloody trip out to Yepheron Isle on Lake Volgoma, which is to the northwest of Karvosti, which had presumably furnished some information. We think maybe about like how to get into the cliffs, which I assume are the cliffs on Karvosti where all the witches hang out. So maybe there was some information there. And she had also said that she was looking for someone called a leader, who was last seen or was last suspected to be in a place called New Earthmoor, which is a settlement to the east of Karvosti, quite a long way, which is where a bunch of Ambrian heretics hang out, doing some fun heretical parties in the woods. So discussing the possibilities, the party kind of leaned towards the idea that we weren't really prepared to go and actually try to sort of go straight to the bit where we tried to track down the location of Symbar and sort of hurl ourselves into immediate danger there. Like, what we actually wanted to do was find Elmendra, and New Earthmoor seemed to be the most likely place to find her. So
yeah, and I think the decision was made in a fairly painless manner that would be the first place to be.
Yeah, so we're going east up the river. That's the
Absolutely.
general plan.
And then you went hunting for a bit more detail about New Earthmoor prospectively, so you knew a bit more about it before you headed straight there. And
Yes.
to talk about that, let's bring on Mike. Mike plays Anton, of course, Fierg, holy man, roller of incredible dice, and a princess of our hearts. So, Mike,
yeah, we tried to get some more information. Anton tried unsuccessfully quite initially to get the information. I went to Teresma, I think her name was, the innkeep, the longhouse, and like this is not really in the recap, but it kind of is, but like we've introduced a new mechanic which is about sort of like factions and sort of reputation and how easy it is to get like information out of those factions. And part of the thing there was that Anton was unsuccessful really in sort of like leveraging like our reputation for her faction. But we did learn from that the like every man and his dog is also looking for information about these three locations. But we did get a lead to go and speak to Edrefin to maybe get some more information from him. And that was quite revealing because it turns out Edrefin knows Elida. Elida had spent some time with Edrefin in Karvosti. And we also learned that Elida had spent time in the cliffs with the witches, maybe being sort of like strong-armed into like their group into that habitation for like a period of time. But yeah, we basically were told all about how we can get to New Earthmoor, which like he recommended one of two options. One is going to Jakar, and the other is going to, oh God, what's the name of it? Archbridge. I think it is.
Correct. It's Archbridge. Yep.
Archbridge, which is a bit closer, and from both of those locations, we could like kind of go up the river, and we've got a choice of like paddling up the river against the current or walking alongside the river. And it's going to take us about 2 weeks to get there, and then presumably 2 weeks to get back. So yeah, that's what we learned. There was also, and I don't think that we covered this with Stephen's thing, but it might be worth mentioning that Captain Marvolo showed up at one point before, which is not strictly relevant to us finding out information about New Earthmore, but just an interesting thing that happens.
It's in, yeah, no, and well thought of, actually. I forgot to put that in the recaps, but yeah, and he also perhaps seems to be involved in. I think the conclusion we'd reached as a group was that him and his group of rangers are going to try and stop people from going to these places in some fashion, or at least stop those who are ill-equipped to deal with such places in this kind of like gold rush towards these 3 locations. I think the only other thing I'd mention as well, the very comprehensive recap, Mike, is that Edrefin also mentioned that the specific religion followed by New Earthmore is that the villagers all worship some version of the Earth Mother. Who is one of you'll all know, because you're all probably, well, maybe Ascarai doesn't. Most of you are old enough to probably have some either memory or have heard of the various different members of the Pantheon, of which Prios was just one. But those of you who went to Castor will have seen the Earth Mother as being one of the deities venerated by the Church of the Many there when you visited. But to go on and talk about some of the preparations before we leave Carvosti for Archbridge, which is as we decided to go, let's bring on Chris. Chris plays Steo, former infantryman and city guard, and now someone who brings his grumpy experience and shiny spear to the fore for this group of fortune hunters. Chris, tell us how the last hours on Carvosti went, please.
Yeah, so we cluelessly maggoted our way back to camp and began to work on kind of packing up and provisioning ourselves for the journey. Now, there was a deal done whereby myself and Aaron Dar could finally go and meet the magical tree friend. So we finally got the last part of our kind of holiday completed and went up to the top of Carvosti to the Grove, a very foreboding, very empty, very kind of atmospheric place where it was made abundantly clear by the whispering wind and lifeless silence that we were not welcome there. Also, Farron did not enjoy the experience. So we kind of came back down to camp and caught up with, kind of sorted out our NPCs a little bit. So our real replacement lore master, Ganderald, is going back to Thistlehold. And we're keeping the squire, who, after a little bit of back and forth with Steel trying to convince her not to, decided to stay along and stick with Alindra, who is now her kind of, I suppose, de facto new knight. So that's kind of the party. And aside from that, we had a bit of a debate about how much trail provisions cost and kind of got all that purchased and packed. And now we're good for our journey, which we believe is going to take about a month if we're unlucky.
Yeah, I think it might be a month if you're lucky. But we will see. And to round out the recaps from last week, let's bring on our final party member, and a final party member of the year. It's John. It's only John in it, playing Sir Arindar, noble, somewhat naive duelist and wannabe noble. Yeah, go on, John. Go on.
So I had talking to the 3 NPCs as most of my recap.
Oh, no, sorry.
That's fine. But other than that, we left Carvosti we went past the broken down palisade, which was being repaired, and then we came to Archbridge, which was named because it had an arched bridge. That's more or less it. It's not what we would typically expect as a barbarian town, in that it looks very Ambrian, and some of us might be slightly surprised by that. But
absolutely. So very good, and there we are, and there is Archbridge. That is not the only part of the bridge that is visible in the settlement. You can see various other parts of it stretched across the length of it, but they are all kind of separated and crumbling from each other. It is clearly not a functional bridge anymore, and sheltered beneath it are the wood and stone structures of the Odavs, which there's a main road, which is what you can see there, which has a bustling marketplace, various kind of different stores and places of interest nearby. As you've now kind of like entered within the bounds of Archbridge, you walk past on your way into this main street an extremely large structure that looks, for all the world, like an Ambrian palace. In point of fact, Steo, specifically you, although maybe Anton, how old? Anton's in his 30s, right? Mike, did we establish that?
I think we said 40s, actually.
40s, okay. Yeah, then Anton and Steo definitely recognize it as an architectural style that's rare even in Indaros now. It harkens back to the architecture of Alberator, as you see it, and from the fact that it has a lot of heavily tattooed Odav guards standing outside it, you can only surmise it is perhaps their chieftain's place of living, clearly perhaps built by Ambrians as recompense for the various services that Odavs have performed over the last 20 years for the Ambrian crown. Emblazoned on many things are the symbols of the Odavs, the most prominent of which is a rather rudimentary and symbolic drawing that appears to be of a large, curvy, somewhat kind of almost comically rotund woman within a diamond, who probably Anton, I'll give this for you for free. You are aware that is a sort of ancestor / god / spirit that is one of a few that the Odavs venerate. And probably, as far as you're concerned, is kind of certainly Anton, as someone who thinks in academic ways, you probably view her as the head of their pantheon. The reality of how it works might not quite be that, but from your understanding, it's kind of maybe their chief goddess, as far as you're aware.
Have we seen any sign of the water?
Yeah, I mean, I believe, let me just double check the map, but I believe you cross the water to get here, because it does run, I think it runs to the north of, let me just see if I can, yes, yeah, you cross the Malgamore to get here over a sort of fairly hefty looking stone bridge. Yeah, the water is to the north, which is, I mean, yeah, kind of begs the question of why the bridge is not over the river, but it's definitely not.
Mm.
But it's Symbaric, so who knows?
Okay. Well, perhaps we should. Well, I guess we won't set out until tomorrow, but perhaps we should secure transport first and then investigate the town as much as we like.
And licenses.
Licenses.
As you are, this is an assumption on my part. Would you say you're kind of slowly walking down this street, kind of looking at everything around you with the eyes of people who haven't been here before? Would you say that's a fairly...
touristing it up, I'd say, is what Steo's doing.
Sure, absolutely. Well then, you were the first to answer, Chris. So you hear someone calling nearby you in kind of quite a heavy Odav accent, but very, very, understandable Ambrian, calling, "Sir, sir, you are a warrior, a great warrior with that spear, yes?"
I'll kind of glance over.
Great warriors of the Queen are welcome here at the camp. No charge, no charge.
Is this an inn?
We do not have Ambrian inns here, sir. This is the Odav custom, an open camp. Our hospitality is our gift. Your stay here, your gift to us, please. He kind of gestures towards essentially what's a very large. It's like a large open area surmounted with it's almost like a vaulted roof, but with nothing actually underneath it other than the pillars holding it up. So it is sheltered from the rain and the weather. There are a lot of people in there. Most of them look Ambrian, but some of them do look like clan folk. There are a lot of fires being set, a lot of people talking, a lot of laughter, and more than a little drinking is going on as well. There do seem to be Odavs dressed similarly to the young man talking to you, walking around with trays full of drinks and food and various things, which they do seem to be exchanging coin for. So perhaps from what you have walked past a couple of inns that looked a lot more familiar to you, but yeah.
Does it have witch and familiar vibes to it?
In a way, yes. Yes, it does, in that it's laid out in a more open plan way, and people are just sat around fires. But at the very least, you can see some tents set up. You can see some caravans wheeled in there. There's lots of horses and donkeys, like over on one side, stabled up. It does essentially seem to be an inn, but like an open plan one in which you don't have to pay to stay.
Okay. Well, I think what I will do is, thanks. We have some business to attend to. We'll come back.
He waves at you cheerily and then kind of accosts a set of merchants walking behind you.
Hard to trust someone so eager for us to stay somewhere for free.
It's a tourist town, isn't it? Besides, the beer's not free.
Beer's not free anywhere, but you still have to pay to stay at most places.
I don't know. I'd rather stay where the most Odavs are staying, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Anton, do you want to roll cunning for me, please? And you know what? Ask her I can as well.
I don't make it. Rolled an 18.
Right. 10, I think. I rolled a 15.
No, never mind.
Well, I suppose we want to kind of look and see if there's a not a shipwright, but a boat builder or a boat lessor.
Are we definitely going by boat?
Yeah, we hadn't decided for sure. Like, walking is also an option.
I think there are risks to taking the boat, not least that it would be tiring. Well, here's a starting point for us. How many of us can swim?
I am happy with you all being able to swim, but yeah.
Okay.
Look, the last time we went up this river, we went by boat. I'm not saying we have to go up by boat, but that's the way we did it the last time.
This is true.
And the shore did prove more dangerous than the river itself. I mean, once we got to the river, the lake, a different story, but I think a boat will be safer generally and harder to get lost.
I'll defer to the people that have taken this trip before. A boat it is?
I think. Well, let's see what let's see how badly we're going to get scalped.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I mean, you cross the river to get over here, and you could see further down the river from where you were. Like you saw the edge of Archbridge kind of butting up against the shore of the river. So you're certain that it does do so that part of the town reaches the river. And you think if you struck north through the streets, you'd reach that riverbank where surely everyone to do with boats would be on the riverbank, you would imagine. So is that something that we want to give a go to? Okay. So let's have a go at this. So you walk through the streets, you reach the banks of the Malgamore, which is probably running a bit harsher than it was the first time you went down it, although not massively so. It's the end of winter. Snow is melting further upriver, and it's causing it to swell its banks somewhat. There are quite a few people here who look like they attend to boats, sell boats. You can see kind of that there's some kind of large store with almost a similar look to the place that offered you somewhere to stay, with like a large open area with this roof over it, where there are various boats, fishing rods, nets, various trinkets and things one might need if one were to go on the river, or indeed onto the Lake Volgoma, which is not too far to the west from here. And most of it seems to be for sale, including big crates of fresh fish, which are being offloaded by a large... Chris, what would you call... is it a skiff? Like a very flat riverboat. Like almost a big raft.
I'll accept skiff, yeah. The only other thing I can think of is Doge, and that's completely wrong.
Sure. The ruler of medieval Venice is not here to offload some fish.
What about a little Lakita?
Moving on. So this skiff has kind of poled up to the shore and is offloading crates of fish, presumably from the lake to the west. It gives the entire street a very distinctive odor. And there's other places you could try and look if this seems to if you want to get your boats from a more artisan bespoke place.
Well, Anton, that's great. I think this would be better done in Oda rather than Ambrin.
We can try. Well, let's try this first place, I guess, and get an idea of what we might be looking at.
Yeah, see what they say.
Sounds good. So I don't think you have to roll to speak Odav, do you? Like, just kind of conversational Odav is absolutely fine with Lawmaster, I believe.
I think it's like I think how we've done it before is like if I'm doing the like really simple stuff, I don't roll, but if it's proper deep conversation, I need to roll.
Yeah, sure. I think I don't think this is a particularly deep conversation, and I think that the Odav kind of master of the store comes up to you fairly, without much prompting, and sort of sketches out a little traditional Ambrian bow to you, and kind of gestures friendly towards the sun symbol around your neck, and sort of traces the sign of Prios in the air. You get the impression, though, this doesn't mean that he is a worshipper of Prios. It's something you've seen clan folk do as a kind of like, oh, I recognize your god, as I'm sure you would recognize mine. And let's say, in fact, he does have a necklace of that large sort of goddess around his neck as well. And he asks you what you would be looking for on this day, and he addresses you in Odav as father as well.
Okay. Well, we're looking for boats for travel upstream, or maybe
Oh.
I'd say to the east.
Father, I have just the boats that you wish. So there are 6 of you. Is this correct? He points to your companion stood behind you.
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, then you will be requiring 3 of my river canoes, I suspect, unless you have additional baggage that I cannot see.
Just 6 and our gear.
He walks over to literally like a large rack where long kind of double I don't know what you call them, kayaks, kind of very long hollowed out vessels are with long powerful looking oars on them, and he kind of like he's kind of reeling off the features as it were of these to you, but it is mainly like, you know, this wood is very solid. It takes on some of the water, which helps it stay afloat, and etc. etc.
Get me one with a cup holder.
He's not entirely, you know, Stan from Monkey Island, but he's definitely applying something of a hard sell to you. He says, I think you would require 3 of these river canoes, Father, and that will be a total of 6 thaler.
6 thaler. Okay. Well, at this point, I guess I'll open that up to the party and see what they say.
Can I go and look at these canoes? I don't think Askran knows anything about canoes, but he's been in a canoe down this river before. Do they look the same? Like, do they look like? Are there any holes in them or anything?
Did you get the canoes from Jakar before?
I think you got
so,
them
yeah.
from Ephnea's aunt, Ephenea.
Did you get them from Ephenea's aunt? Yeah. These look. The ones you had before were kind of slightly more. Like each vessel looks slightly different. Like it was maybe, you know, built by a different person, or at least like for a slightly different purpose. These look much more stock. Like someone in the back somewhere, and you know what? You can hear some woodworking going on somewhere beyond the wall. Someone's bashing this stuff out. Like this, the fishing light rods kind of like producing them, sort of at speed. But give me a cunning roll, why don't you? And you know, I'll give you a +2 to that. I think that's fine.
Okay, I need a 12. I rolled a 17.
Yeah, you really don't know how this stands as a boat compared to sort of the other ones.
Okay, looks like a boat.
Are we buying these or renting them?
$6 will buy you it.
Yeah, it's a trip up to Davakar. There's no.
People ain't gonna
rent you something on what's probably going to be a one-way trip.
Yeah.
But if we do get them back, we could possibly sell them.
He does actually add, as you say, that if you did only want them for one trip and you brought them back in good shape, he would give you some recompense to take them in and patch them up and sell them on again. You're on mute, Mike.
I think this is fine. I don't want to haggle for the sake of trying to find somewhere.
6 thaler seems between our parties seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Who's going to lay the money down for that? Revelia has no money. So
I will put down 2 thaler for a boat for Revelia and I.
Okay.
And then that's just a thaler each for everyone else. That's manageable. Yeah. Speak now or don't.
And I can, in my head, you see, the other, here's how I will just arrange the cams. In my head, the 2 secret Iron Pact people would share a canoe, and Askar and Anton would share a canoe through having gone through the shared ordeal of buying a canoe together. Both being people who know Odav. No, you're just the 2 left over. after that? Does that
That
seem...
kind of cuts out the whole meme where I do my very best not to end up on a boat with Anton, but I think that's fine for now.
I distinctly remember that is where this all started, when we were last going in canoes up the river, and quite frankly, Steer was an absolute prick about the whole thing. So Anton is.
I think Chris just didn't want you to roll a 20 for paddling.
Capsize every time you try to row anywhere.
Spill him into the river in plate armor.
Astro would be more than happy to share a canoe with Anton.
Look forward to being accidentally clubbed over the head with an oar when
Ascarai just disappeared the day we went into the canoes. It was never found. Although his mask did wash up on the shores of the lake 2 years later.
I'm guessing there is room for Farron to sit between us in the canoe, right?
Yeah,
good.
He doesn't wear too much.
And presumably we can moor these here overnight and pick them up in the morning. We don't have to
the owner is more than happy for you to tie them up.
Cool.
Do we want any other gear while we're here? Like, because if we talked about supplementing rations with like hunting and stuff like that, well, we could buy some fishing rods and do some fishing potentially on the river as well.
Yeah, we might need some oars.
Yeah,
I think
they come with oars.
Oh, bargain.
So you don't have to like.
Do they come with a spare oar in the case we inevitably lose half our oars?
They do not. I mean, you could still paddle with one oar. It would just be a lot of work for the person doing it.
3 extra fishing rods, 3 extra oars.
If you want fishing rods, I can give you the cost of those. Fishing. Oh God. Fishing line and hook is 3 oar tags. So I'm going to double that for a full fishing line. So a full. You know what? No, I'll just push it up to a shilling. I think that's fine. A fishing rod is a shilling. There's also nets if you want some, which are also a shilling.
I'll buy a net, maybe not for fishing purposes, but I have a feeling I might want to catch a fleeing cartoon villain.
Nets do tend to be traditionally very good and easy ways of fishing in rivers.
I already have on my character sheet fishing line and hook, and I don't know if that's part of like the standard adventuring gear that everyone has.
It might be.
Bought it at some point during.
Here's the question, Sam: does Ascarai know how to make a fishing rod?
Probably not. But he's got a line. You can, I don't know, put a line in the water and hope a fish, I don't know, jumps in his boat.
People do that all the time. That's why no one ever uses fishing rods.
True.
I'm gonna go for one of those fishing rods because Aaron can see people using them and they look like they might be fun.
Sure.
I will pick up a net. There we go.
I'll take a net as well.
Fisher of men. Okay, moving on. Moving on from that. Is there any other gear that people wanted to investigate? Oh, I guess we've got our licenses, right?
That's what I was going to angle us towards now.
Yeah. Well, here's the question. Where's the goddamn price for explorers licenses? Let me try and do a bit of the old. Here's the question: where have they? I guess the explorer's license, page 34. Excellent. Thank you, Free League. So, the question is, how long do we think we will be? How long do we want it for? Because there's a cost per month, and there's a cost per year, and then there are additional, essentially add-ons you have to get. Yeah.
Well, what are because I wonder, are they going to give us a discount given we already have a perfectly serviceable set of Explorers licenses, and just getting them ratified from start of the year to start of the summer might be able to make some bureaucrats' job a little bit easier, maybe get a little bit of a discount.
Yeah, just like rub out the end date, put a new one in.
Sure.
But-
Well, I mean, yeah, you have that. Like Ganderold handed over your license, so you could have it kind of run on if you want. And you know what? It's easy to find. There's a ranger's outpost on that main street that you passed. And there is a little stall outside where a very bored-looking clerk sits and has like a parchment laid out next to them on the wall with costs essentially listed out. He does look bored, but he also looks busy. You look at another group of individuals kind of like leaving his little desk, and he kind of jingles a whole bunch of coins that he gave them in a bag, which he like puts down at his side. There is a ranger stood like next to the thing, looking even more bored, and just kind of like watching out over the crowd for anyone who's about to leap and try and take the money.
Would Ganderold have been able to pass on a license to Revelia? She might not have one.
Well, we'll see. That's where it's lucky, because the license specifies a number of people, and this specifies 6 because Ganderold was the 6th.
Yeah. Cool. So that's not an obstacle to trying to sort of bypass the bureaucracy and just be like,
no. A quick. Is anyone gonna? Are we going to engage with the clerk there, or are we going to take a look at this cost list first and try and calculate it ourselves?
Look at the cost.
I think I'll take a look. Yeah, let's take a look at the cost list before we follow the guy, because he looks busy.
Absolutely. So you take a look, and you know what? Everyone is going to take a look at this list. I want you to roll cunning, because you're not used to maths, I don't think, particularly. And also, it's the listing makes it all seem slightly obscure.
Is there a modifier?
I'll give a modifier for any of you with formal education, which will just be Alindra and Anton, where you can both take a +3.
Cool. Yeah, I pass.
Okay. Anyone other than Alindra pass? What a group of dum-dums. So he said, now having to calculate it himself. It will actually be cheaper for you to take a license for the group for the rest of the year than it will be for 6 months, because they're intentionally much cheaper. And here's the complication. You need to get a general explorer's license or a general travel license for 6 people. You also need to add on essentially a number of additional thala based on what you expect to be doing out there. The main 3 listings are gathering, harvesting, and exploring.
I think we need covered for all of those, right?
I'm not sure you need.
Gathering is like picking plants and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Harvesting is fishing.
Fishing, yeah, you probably will, yeah.
And exploring is going anywhere or looking at things.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
So let me just calculate this myself. So the cost for the group for the year is a certain amount. The cost of the 6 of you, right? Let's say that add-on is an average amount. You're already out here, so they're probably not gonna. They probably actually might gouge you a bit. So let's go with that, because you're a captive audience, right? You're already out here. You need to buy it. So let's go with that, and the 6 of you, right? So that's that. Okay, I'm going to just do a little bit of arithmetic here. So that is, yeah. For the rest of the year, a license extended for your entire party will cost you 138 thaler.
Cool. I will calmly relay
got-
this to the others.
I've got $6.
What? Where's all your money?
Where is all your
Oh, it's spent.
What? You had hundreds.
I got
I've still got like
very drunk.
How drunk?
No, but seriously though, what you can't. It can't be gone. You had hundreds of thaler.
It's all gone. This number
how much
on my,
was your plate
my
armor?
sheet. Oh, do you know what I think? I've a feeling 100 thaler dar might have something to do with this because didn't all
No,
them
we got that back.
Yeah. So where did it go back to?
I redisputed it equally.
Hmm.
Also,
Yeah.
you only paid, I think, like 20 or maybe 30 of it.
Sam, how much do you have left? Because I've got like 70 left or something daft because
Yeah,
I've not
I have-
spent
I have-
much of mine.
I'm the same. I have 81.
Okay, that makes me feel better about my maths.
Steo did put up front the cost for our last license, but theoretically everyone paid him back.
I think we
It's
had.
whether Chris recorded that we paid him back.
I'm just saying, I have it in black and white, $6.
Thrilling scenes.
Well, the good news is that between Anton and Askarite, we can pay this, right? If we decide that this is what we want to do.
And this is licensed to essentially to like what, midwinter, next winter.
And
Yeah.
we
Or the
plan
end
on
of next winter, yeah.
We plan on going to Faramund Marun at some point, whatever it's called, and we plan on going to the islands and Lake Volgamore at some point. So it's not like we only plan on just doing a month's excursion. We plan on doing other things.
Ganderald is holding a number of the things that we found for us in Thistlehold. I guess when we get back, we'll just have to make sure that the proceeds of that are divided up to make sure that you are reimbursed.
Yeah.
Okay. Does it? I guess no one else has any like significant amount of money to put towards this.
I don't think Aaron, Dar, and Elindra certainly won't. I don't think.
I have 16 thaler.
Got 3 thaler, 9 shillings.
I do have a bag of 10 golden teeth, but I'm going to try and save them for a special occasion.
I mean, if
Forgot
you're
about
convinced
those.
they're not like they don't have any kind of power, you certainly like Archbridge will definitely have traders here who take in things from the forest, and you could get that priced and see how much you can get for it.
I think I'm keeping those back because we're going to be in an area soon where people are not going to really be all that keen on Thaler, or at least may not be keen on Thaler. So maybe having just some actual gold to hand is probably safer. So Steele's keeping quiet. I mean, I think everyone got a share of the teefies, didn't they? Because we got more than 10 out of the oven.
Yeah,
But anyway,
depends
this
who's
is
carrying them though.
Yeah. I know I've got 10 because it's written down, but I also know I've only got 6 thaler because that's also written down. And I will literally
I
say
just
that. I've got
can't
6
imagine where your money has gone. You had hundreds.
Okay, do you want to split it, Anton? And or we can do what's the total? 130 or 130?
138.
138.
Okay. I'll pay, I guess,
69.
69. Nice.
69.
You can try to argue them down on the grounds that it's just changing a date on a piece of paper, but also we kind of need them to do this and they know that. So I don't know how much room there is for negotiation.
You could try and negotiate using the modifier that you might have with representatives of the Queen.
The only people who know
Interesting.
that the Queen owes us a favor aren't allowed to tell anyone about it, especially not the Queen.
No. You earned reputation from being the heroes of the sinkhole as well.
What was the name of the guard? Like the guard captain we met, who
Decamado.
Decamado.
You could try.
It sounds
It's up
like
to you.
there might be a haggling play here for that actually.
Does someone want to give it a go?
What attribute represents the Ambrian royalty?
And remember,
I
if it's not the correct one, it will reset to persuasive.
Discreet.
I was thinking cunning actually.
Hmm.
But if it's persuasive, don't make me roll it.
So if you as a group think it might be discreet or cunning or whatever, the play is to send the person with that highest stat. Because your best persuasive is like 10, right? It's rubbish.
11.
Or 11, yeah, sure. So if you have one of those stats above that and you think it is that, send them there with the obviously the caveat that if it's not that person is rolling persuasive. So, well, what can go wrong other than a 20?
I have a feeling that we're sending Aaron. I think regardless, I'm cunning 10, discreet 9, so like I can't do as well as Aaron just persuading, and I think that's true of everyone else.
No, not at all. Like
I
Astra
have
has
good
very high
discreet.
discreet,
Oh, okay.
and Tom has high cunning.
I have
Come on,
high,
make a group
neither
decision.
cunning nor discreet.
I don't think Ascar would believe in his ability to convince, based on his experiences, to get a cheap explorer's license. So I
Right,
think
The thing is, I don't believe in Mike's ability to roll anything other than pure rarefied dog shit.
Oh,
It's so
I do. I believe in Mike.
Bruce,
I think he's an upstanding man of the cloth.
I mean,
Thank
just
you,
Thank you,
name-
Stephen. Thank you,
name
Stephen, for
drop.
committing me to re-rolling my dice and spending XP.
You're welcome.
Just purely from the roleplay standpoint, Anton is certainly the most respectable member of the party. Just to look
I think
at.
from a roleplay standpoint as well, Ascar would be very hesitant to send Aaron Dar to negotiate anything.
100
Aaron would be
Dar
completely
will
up
not
for
strike
it.
twice.
Elindra will probably
Christ.
end up hacking the guy in half.
138 or murder.
Go on then,
The-
Anton. See what you can do.
the thing for me is that my persuasive is 10 and my discreet is 10. So it's
But you could
it's
try.
the same.
What's your cunning though?
My cunning
You
is at
said
11.
discreet or cunning. That's still one better, right?
Okay, well let's go for it then, and I guess try cunning.
Sure. Tell me how you employ cunning to talk to this servant of the Queen and the Rangers to sort of,
I think that Anton is going to do a very ungodly thing of going against some of his true beliefs and sort of making some sort of references to how he's going on a party to loot these foreign lands and take the wealth back to Ambria.
sure. Presumably name dropping like that you are the heroes of the sinkhole and all this stuff. Okay, then I think that's perfectly fine. And you're using cunning, right?
Yeah.
Did you say? Okay. Well, let me just see. I can't remember if there's a base bonus for picking the correct stat because you have done it. House Koinor's impressed by stat is indeed cunning. I don't think there's any.
I think the benefit is you get to roll with that because the assumption is that
Under the assumption that it's better than persuasive. I think that is correct. Yes, and you are rolling that, Anton, at a +2, please.
Okay, so I need a 13 or less, and that's a 10.
There
I
we
would
go.
have made it with persuasive.
The clerk kind of starts kind of nodding their head as you start talking. Sort of, yes, they've heard it all. Reasons why you should pay less, and then as you mention being the heroes of the sinkhole, his eyes kind of light up a bit, and the ranger standing by, she kind of like turns around and peers at you all and kind of nudges him and points at points at Elindra and says, "Hi, that tall one in the torn Templar tabard. They're telling the truth. I was in Thistlehold and someone pointed them out to me." The clerk kind of turns around and goes, "Oh well, obviously, for a service to the lands of Ambria, we can make some kind of discount. I'm sure." He kind of looks up at the ranger and she nods enthusiastically. Why don't you give me, Mike, a D6 roll, just for a bit of randomization on exactly how much of a discount they can offer here. I saw you mouth the word one, so I'm guessing it's a one. Yeah, okay.
That's good,
in that
right?
case,
Low is good. Low is good.
Yeah,
low is good.
Definitely. So that's 128 thaler that this will cost, rather than 138. So, yeah. It would have been comedy if that had just been a representative of Thala, so I could have just gone 137 Thala. But no, 100. I think Chris literally fell off his chair at that. So, yeah, 128. So what's that? 64 Thala each from Askrai and Anton. This does mean that you're not paying 69. Does that curse you?
It does a bit, yeah.
Does that decrease your luck in some way? But you walk away from the stand, the proud owners of a very expensive piece of paper.
Good work, father.
Well done.
It's better than nothing, but it is still an eye-watering sum.
The real question is, how much can we sell the remaining one from the Ordo Magica for?
No, it's the same one.
Oh, is it? They just extended it on the cheap. Okay.
I think
Damn
they
it.
literally
I mean,
just...
they take in your old license. They don't give it back to you. And they
damn it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was literally just like
they're not stupid.
There's a year on it, and they just change the date. They just, there you go.
No.
Stamp.
Let's hope everything we've found and everything we're going to find can be worthwhile.
Once this adventure is over and we return to Thistlehold, I'm going into government. That seems to be where the real money is.
It seems to be the exact kind of person they'd look for.
Right?
This has been an eye-opening experience because I was under the impression that Stio was against returning to Davokar so that he could return back to Thistlehold and spend his fortune on retirement and drink. And now it turns out that very much wasn't the case, and he needs to go to Davokar to top up his wallet a bit more.
Don't need to go anywhere. We got a whole ass full of artifacts on their way back to Thistlehold. There'd be enough money there for half a farm.
It does make me realize that nearly everything we own, our entire worth, is resting on the shoulders of Ganderald getting safely back to Thistlehold.
It's slightly late to be getting concerned about that.
True, but I'm still concerned.
Look, no, I would just, for the record, I was concerned about it at the time. We could have gone back to Thistlehold. But look,
where
are we going to sleep?
Dice?
Ganderald getting safely back to Thistlehold, you say?
Oh no!
Interesting.
I hate him. I hate it. I hate everything. Where are we sleeping?
The free place sounds good.
Yeah, I'm much more convinced now.
Yeah. Actually, I'll kind of loop back towards the thing and go the ranger station and ask them, seeing as they are somewhat enamored by us, would you recommend a place to stay for the night that's cheap and not muggy?
Can't beat the camp.
Okay,
It's
you're the
it's
second
free
person to
there.
recommend it.
Food and drink is good. You've got to pay for those, but it's tied to Odav customs. Taboo, they call them. No one starts violence there, or their life is forfeit. No, same for stealing. It's a violation.
Sideways
of
glance at
hospitality.
Arinder.
It's a violation of hospitality.
What?
Chieftain's law.
Okay,
Sounds
well,
good.
if we're getting harangued off the street, but we're also getting a recommendation for it, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, I take it we're heading back along the main street, which is probably very much darkening now, although it's much warmer than it is up on the plateau of Karvosti without the wind howling over the edge of the cliff. And you make your way there relatively quickly. The young man who accosted you on the street, Steo, sees you again and flashes you a smile that seems to indicate he's genuinely very pleased that you took him up on the offer. And you are waved inside. Just ahead of you, a large group of individuals traveling in kind of very heavy overcoats with a couple of horses. They seem Ambrian as well. Does anyone who might decide that they're paying attention to fellow travelers want to roll me a vigilant roll at -2, please?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Anyone who rolled a success, you see that a number of them are wearing Sons of Prios around their neck, which isn't unusual, but like they seem to be quite well made ones of kind of cheap gold. And let's say that both of you notice their winter cloaks moving aside and showing other cloaks underneath, black ones over black leggings, black shirts, black jackets.
Who is it? Is this just another group of travelers in the camp, or
They were kind of going in ahead of you. Yeah.
okay?
How many?
That's a good question. Let me take a look, because I do have a precise answer for you. There are 9 of them in total. It's quite easy to pick out the leader of them. He's a softly spoken older man who the others are very much deferring to everything he says, which suggestions he's delivering in a sort of quite very mild and polite tone, but all of them immediately kind of follow his suggestions. He's kind of directing them kind of away from where you are over to a sort of corner of the open camp area, where a couple of them start setting up tents, and another one is negotiating for some food with a nearby Odav who's wandering around with like a large tray of. They seem to be buying like little pots of meat and nuts and berries, and at the same time they like are saying things to him, and he's writing things down like on a slate with chalk to presumably an order of a larger meal to bring.
I will nudge anybody that might not have seen them and point them out and say, perhaps we should give them some space.
Maybe a couple of miles.
It's worth noting, of course, that Askarine and Lindra are the only ones who noticed the black cloaks.
Okay. Look, black cloaks.
Sure.
We saw a black cloak leaving Karvosti when all the news broke out in the tavern, I think.
We did.
Mm-hmm. You did.
Did any of them look like that black cloak?
No. None of you recognize any of these men.
Okay. But I agree we should give them some space.
That's trouble. I don't like it. I don't like black
Hopefully they're
cloaks.
not also planning on setting off down the river tomorrow morning.
I have a strong suspicion that that might be exactly what they're planning. How many reasons can you think of for a gang of black cloaks, 9 black cloaks, to be all the way out here?
Well, they could be going the other way to the island if we're lucky.
If we're lucky. I wonder, is that what Marvella was out here to stop?
Or they
I wish you luck if that's the case.
maybe heading up as far as the Sun Temple? Isn't that along the river?
That's also true. I don't want to be behind them. I don't want to be in front of them. I want to be going the opposite direction from them. Do anyone think they can figure out where they're going?
Not without
I don't know,
asking them, I
Ascar. Is
suppose.
this a sneaking job? Or Aaron, this might be just a strike up conversation with them job, but I don't think the black cloaks are much for the humour.
I assume we're having this conversation as we're trying to find a place to.
Yeah,
Yes.
I guess it's quite a big area, so hopefully we can choose a bit
Very.
of it that's not near them.
Yeah, you absolutely can. In fact, if you want to pick an area that's more or less on the other side of the camp from them, you can do. This means you're definitely in the area where there are more clansfolk, perhaps, than Ambrians, but none of them particularly blink an eye. Antom and Ascarai, can you give me a cunning roll, please? No, actually a vigilant roll. Actually, your choice of cunning or vigilant.
Failed.
I made it. Rolled a 2.
Most of the clansfolk here are not Odav. But they're traveling, so that kind of makes sense.
Okay. Do they tend to be from a particular clan or just not Odav and a bunch of other
There's definitely a mix here, including and they're easy to spot. There's a group near you as you sort of walk past of a clan called I don't think we've encountered anyone from before, called the Bayaga, who are from lands. Let me get my map out here just to be perfectly precise. The Bayaga inhabit the lands to the north of Karvosti. So if we think about just talking about a number of the clans who we well, you know what? Let me bring up the old shall I bring up a map of Davakar here? That would be maybe handy. And we can just look, because we don't often look at these things, do we? But I think for the purposes of this, for talking about this, because we've been talking about different clans and like clan lands and stuff, and it's probably worthwhile to just have a decent illustration of them. So forgive the PDF version, but I just have to do it. So this here, obviously, here's Thistlehold, and here's the land of the Odavs here, kind of flush against the north of Ambria. This is the land of the Carrots that you've been through before, the Karahar, who you encountered in Cylindra's Hope. Over here are the Zarek, who I don't think we've encountered so much in this adventure, or in this campaign rather, but we encountered them thoroughly in Fetters of Stone, our offshoot adventure, which is on YouTube if people want to go watch it. And the Bayagar here, to the north, at kind of a little triangle of the Odavs, the Zarek, and the Bayagar here. You know they're Bayagar because they are sitting at their camp very calmly alongside a very large brown bear, which is sat on its haunches, quietly, happily eating, kind of gnawing away at, it looks like maybe tree bark or a very thick kind of plant that it has held between its claws and is kind of gnawing at it. Yeah, the Bayagar travel, they use bears as kind of half companions, half kind of like, you know, they're hunting and war animals, and they travel with them often because they are a traveling clan as well. In fact, other clans tend to view them with some suspicion because they don't really settle. So they kind of consider them sort of itinerant and not tied to kind of sacred lands, and when they same way they are. Yeah.
Nice.
Is Farron looking in any way fighty
Farron is
towards this large
hiding
bear?
behind. Farron is hiding behind your legs.
Okay,
Farron
that's
is a smart enough cat that it does not want to take on a huge bear. It actually looks like it's a specific breed of bear known in Davakar as, I think it's called a Biagorn. If you think of it like, I realize this probably isn't a useful comparison point for anyone who hasn't studied prehistoric mammals in some way. But if you think about it as a kind of prehistoric cave bear, Biagorns. This is a big fucking bear, is what I'm trying to say. It's like a brown
Roughly-
bear, but probably the same size as like a polar bear or something.
So roughly how many weasels taped together are we talking here?
Fuck you.
I'm going to help out by asking a completely different question. Do I have it right that it would be reasonably common knowledge, even amongst Ambrians, that that the clans take their taboos very seriously, and that anybody that's staying here is likely to be familiar with the kind of the local taboos about the place, and is likely to be respectful of those?
Give me a cunning roll.
Okay, donkey.
If I remember rightly, we have broken taboo ourselves.
But it was a
You
very
then
weird taboo.
But you then performed a service for the clan whose taboo you broke, which made them not fucking kill you when it was all said and done.
Yeah, I passed.
Because you killed the hunter for them. So, yes, you are aware. You have heard of taboo. You know how important it is for clans. You would be surprised if anyone here anyone who had any awareness at all casually broke a taboo. With the caveat that you know your fellow Ambrians as much as any other Ambrian would, and you don't know whether all of them will have got the memo, so to speak. You know,
Sure, but broadly speaking, if we're like surrounded by barbarians, even from other clans, that's as safe or possibly safer than
it's
being around
probably
Ambrians.
safer than being near Ambrians in here, because you very much doubt the clans folk would want to risk the wrath of the Ovdavs.
Cool.
And the ranger literally said, if you break hospitality here, your life is forfeit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This seems good.
Yeah. I'm not going to acknowledge chat.
Oh, now you're making me look for it. How are we going to find out where those black cloaks are going?
Well, I think either Ascarai goes and sees if he can listen in, or Tom goes and asks them. That symbol of Prios will take you a long way. Right? If we're talking to black cloaks,
I have never really had significant dealings with the Black Cloaks, and my experiences are that they are very reluctant to talk about their purposes and plans, especially to regular.
All of my
church.
dealings
What
with
you're
the
saying,
Black Cloaks have been bloody.
You spent all that time with that heavily stabbed body of a black cloak, who you thought was an ally, but turns out what wasn't even that person. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm in favour of Ascarai listening to see what he can find.
if Ascarai is happy to do that, consider this though: if they are going in our direction, what are we going to do about it? I'm guessing nothing.
I guess we let them go first, right? So they don't know that we're potentially going in the same direction as they are.
That would be the wise thing, wouldn't it? But it's more delay. Plus, I mean, knowing what direction they're going, that's great. Knowing if they're going to the Sun Temple, if their intention is to go to that cursed site further north from it, or if they intend to go all the way to the glade we're heading to. whatever happens, if we get a little more information, we'll be in a better position than we are right now. You up for this, Askrai? You've been voluntold.
Well, I suppose it can't hurt. They're not allowed
Just
to do
be
anything to us
careful.
in here anyway.
There's nothing worse than an even more paranoid Black Cloak.
True. I'll see if I can hear anything. But no promises.
Okay, so I take it we are sneaking over to the other side of the other side of the camp and seeing what we can do.
Before I go, I'm going to use my rarely used changeling thing just to not look like Askrai, in case they do notice
Sure.
me. Or
You're
to
not
try.
looking like anyone specific, are you? You're
Yeah.
just doing the generic not look like yourself thing, yeah?
Yeah.
What roll is that?
It's against my resolute, which is 11. Adopt a full shape, form, appearance, voice, and clothes of another creature, but not a specific individual. Last one seen. Okay. So my resolute is 11. I rolled a 13. Does not work.
Nope.
Classic.
You are
change.
very much Askari as you are crossing the camp. Oh, you know, you're still masked, but then you always wear that mask, so it doesn't really help. As you cross over to the kind of the more Ambrian area, it's notably more rowdy over here. Various groups of people are drinking, including a kind of cluster of what look like kind of noblemen and their squires and servants, who are all kind of like boasting about monsters they will slay and treasure they will find and the like. Over a couple of tents and campfires over from them is the Black Cloaks little area where they seem to be. As you're walking nearby, you can see them kind of all kind of gathered round. It's kind of bent over a warm, rather good looking meal that they have their eyes closed and are silent over it for a few seconds as you watch, and then they open their eyes and start eating almost as one. Clearly they were saying some prayer and all doing it in a very regimented fashion. And they start to eat and converse softly with each other, though not very much. They just seem to be occasionally speaking things. The older kind of leader of the group is sat among them. He has what looks like quite an plainly decorated but very richly made scabbard lying over his knees, with a blade in it with a kind of gold inlaid handle. He also has like a book in one hand and is sort of like leafing through it with his thumb carefully while he takes spoonfuls of some kind of hot, meaty broth.
Okay. I guess first thing, I can see a camp that they've set up. Does it look like they're provisioned for a long journey from looking?
Yes, it does. They have what look like very well packed backpacks and sort of they're very well supplied. Yeah, each of them, including the leader, has a very large backpack, which has, you know, you can see that they're more definitely more careful and more thorough about these things than your party is, for example. Everything seems to be packed in the same, like, again, a regimented way, almost like a kind of military way. But in a way, the Black Cloaks are kind of a military arm of the church, not so much as the Templars, but certainly you'd expect them to have some level of discipline.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna walk around, try not to look conspicuous, and like try and get close enough to hear a little bit of what they're talking about without drawing too much attention.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you roll me a flat discreet roll, please?
Okay, my discreet is 13. I rolled a 20.
Are we leaving it at that?
It would be. I should probably reroll. Oh, that is quite interesting.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I'll reroll it. I don't want to completely
Sure.
just get murdered by these guys. Okay, 1 XP down the drain, and I roll a 2, so I make it.
Okay. That's perfectly fine. You kind of step out of the way of one of those drunken nobles is kind of like staggering slightly down the pathway between campfires and almost kind of like grabs onto you to steady himself. But you duck neatly aside and he just kind of stumbles into a fence instead and kind of distracts a bit of attention away from you as you kind of walk around, eavesdropping on the Black Cloaks camp. You can hear them murmuring, honestly, like quite casual conversation. Although there are a couple of things you hear. You hear one of them mention. You hear one of them mention the temple. You also hear one of them. Let me get this bit. I don't know why on earth I've moved that over there. You hear one of them ask another one quite clearly, what they said you came from the east of Thistlehold. They were gathering there. Yes, I'd say a head count of 500 men, more arriving. I'm not sure what the purpose is. In Thistlehold, there was some talk that Corinthia and Duke Alisaro had finally had enough of each other. One of them was making a move. But that's not what most were saying. The other one raises eyebrows and says, Carvosti? Carvosti.
Okay. I will stay as long as I think I can get away with, and then head back over to the group and relay everything. That it looks like they're provisioned for a long journey. I didn't get a clear impression of where they're going, other than they mentioned a temple. And I will say what they said about this all, that there's at least 500 men gathered there, with more arriving, and most people seem to think it's to do with Carvosti. But I will say some people said about some Duke Alisario. I don't know who he is.
Those of you, Aaron Dar will probably know through investigating nobility. Anton will probably know, maybe Alindra, Steo. It's up to you. Duke Alisaro is, let me get this right because we haven't really mentioned him so far. He is the Duke of New Berendoria. He is the uncle of Queen Corinthia and another very significant member of House Kohinoor. In fact, Anton and Steo probably remember that his accession to the throne was something that was heavily speculated on when Queen Corinthia came to the throne. So there's kind of like a perceived rivalry between the two branches of House Kohinoor there. And they've been rumored for years to be at each other's throats.
So we're either looking at civil war in Ambria or outright war in Davokar.
God. Pray on
Yeah.
those dates.
I mean, we don't gather that many men unless you're looking for a war somewhere.
It's still just a rumor. That's insane. She wouldn't. Why would she?
The
Unless
tablet
she knows
which
about-
we provided her.
No, that's just the prophecy. Like, that's just the. I mean, that's a political tool. Like, it's so vague. Like, a queen in the south will come to dominion over all of Symbar's legacy. That's just propaganda. There's no way. Unless she knows. Of course, she knows more than we do.
I take some comfort in the fact that where we are and where we're going is far away from all of this.
I actually agree with you. It might be safer this time to go and hide among the trees for a few months than to go and find ourselves pulled into whatever nonsense is going on here. Does she know about Symbar?
We heard rumors about troops amassing near Thistlehold before we got to Carvosti. Before we'd ever heard of Elmendra.
Yeah.
We saw
Maybe
people.
I'm interested.
We saw rangers fleeing the longhouse as soon as the rumors of Symbar came to light. It's safe to assume that the Queen knows of it now, or if she didn't know of it before.
Yeah, but those troops aren't massing in response to this, unless there were other ways that information got out earlier.
I don't think
what-
our luck runs so hot that it prevents us from having to come to terms with the fact that the Cullinors might be trying to go for Symbar. Again, this is all rumor, conjecture, paranoid, cynical old man.
I don't see what we can do about it in any case.
Yeah.
I think
Other than try to be out of its way.
when we return from this journey, we should be careful if we're approaching Carvosti or any barbarian settlement. Who knows how welcome we'll be there in a month or two time.
The next question is, how much of a head start do we give the Black Cloaks? Assuming that when they say they're going to the temple, they mean the one on the Crook of the Malgamore. That's about, what, a week upriver?
It's about halfway, yeah. It's not far from where the Tomb of Dying Dreams lay, because if you remember, there was a like a little what's the word, pier that was near the temple where you met a couple of clansfolk traders who you bought some supplies off.
I'm willing to bet that 9 well-trained black cloaks can get up that river faster than we can. I think so long as we allow them to set off before we do, there's every chance that we'll never even see them.
But it does mean they'll if they're just going past the temple, they'll certainly get wherever they're going before we do. But
Well,
I
okay,
agree.
but or we go try to set off right now and have them overtake us. Or I'm wrong and they're slower, but
I'm of the opinion that we should let them go first. I agree with you, Lindra, but I might add that we give them a day's start, because that means we can tell their pace from where they make camp. And we can also use their campgrounds if we match their pace, which we might not.
It's probably running quite late now. So do we want to catch some sleep, as most of the camps around you are kind of dousing their flames and retreating into tents and the like, or huddling up to pack animals and each other for some warmth. It is still quite cold after all. The only noise you can hear is over from the Ambrian side of the camp, where a few people are still kind of carousing. I've assumed you've probably got a small amount of drink and some food through the evening as well from the servers. It is very good, very hearty. Okay. Could all of you please roll vigilant at +5?
No
Okay.
success.
No. Yep. Okay. Ascarai and Anton, then you are both roused by a very loud nearby roaring noise and a shriek of pain.
Turn to look towards wherever the bear was.
Yeah, and you are spot on. There are people gathering around there. There are torches lit. There's kind of shouting, and there's a commotion. None of your companions have woken up, and I'll include Revelia in that.
I will get people awake and grab my bow.
Sure.
Yeah.
Vascarai is Askar is getting people away. Like Anton, I'll say if you want to get up and go over, you can kind of probably do it a bit further than a bit quicker than the others, or are you waiting for your companions? When I say a commotion, there doesn't seem to be a fight happening now, but there is shouting and there's a lot of kind of people gathering.
I'll wake people up and we'll go over together.
Go over together, sure. Is anyone remaining behind? Revelia is happy to if we want someone to guard the camp. Or like guard the little area.
I will order Farron to stay with Revelia.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, you head over. As you do so, you can see a man being carried away. You're not sure if he's unconscious or dead, but he is leaving a horrible sprayed trail of blood behind him on the ground. And there seems to be a quite loud argument breaking out between the Bayagar clansfolk. There are some Odavs who clearly maybe you're not exactly sure whether they work here or they're tasked here by the High Chieftain to provide hospitality. Either way, they are separating the Bayagar and some of those drunk nobles, Askarai, that you saw over on the other side of the camp. One of them in particular, a very kind of like boisterous noble, has his sword drawn. And he's like thrusting it, not like he's gesticulating with it in the direction of the Bayagar, ranting about untrustworthy barbarians and their unholy creatures. Why was this thing allowed in? Look at it; it's a monster. We only wish to come over and have a look at the thing, and it's torn the arm. It's torn the arm off Devoga, and he's a good man. Where are we going to find another sword like that up here, etc., etc.? It all feels like this could get out of hand very fast. The Bayagar are replying and kind of through an Odav translator, just kind of bafflingly saying he came over and prodded a sleeping bear. It is trained for war. It is his own mistake.
How
the
did
Bayagar
that
in particular seemed puzzled why even this person would be like even have a problem with this. Like your companion chose to do this.
How are the Odavs reacting?
They are desperately trying to keep both parties as calm as possible. But the nobles look like they're spoiling for a fight. One of them's gesticulating. The Bayagar are being a lot more reserved, but a couple of them near the back you can see are kind of like they have weapons drawn, but they're holding them behind their back, mainly axes, and they not like they're about to spring and attack, but they're ready, just in case.
What are the Black Cloaks doing now? Are they watching?
Well now. Interesting that you asked that, and I'm going to say because Anton asked that, he's the only one to have noticed them so far. You notice a couple of the Black Cloaks stood on the other side of the conversation, kind of glancing at each other, and you see that the leader of them is sort of essentially trying to part because it's mostly barbarians on one side and Ambrians on the other, right? Even in the circle around, you're on that kind of barbarian side of people gathering and peering over. He is essentially kind of like quite calmly and in a measured way, like moving his way through the group of Ambrians who are kind of looking at this. Some of them looking like they're maybe about to start siding with the nobles. In terms of, an Ambrian has been wounded here. He definitely seems to be trying to move his way through them to perhaps speak to people. Okay,
I'd like to just give Steer a bit of a nudge in the ribs and a nod in the direction of that, because I don't know, Steer knows his stuff when it comes to this.
Can I put myself in front of this angry sort of Ambrian and just kind of try to very calmly but very largely sort of loom at him and try to talk him down?
You have to move your way through the crowd first, and you'd have to get past the nobles and the Odavs in order to do so. Like, it's not just a free you can't just
Okay.
move freely in this
I
environment.
will
You certainly can start.
calmly and gently, much like the Black Cloaks. I will try to move myself forwards and see if there's a way that I can
Okay.
help to diffuse this.
I would also like to do the same. Perhaps as a fellow noble, they may respond well.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't you both give me a discreet roll? That's the best I could think of kind of getting to do this without reaching some result. I'm going to basically ask for 2 discreet rolls to like. You can be partway through the crowd, and then the next discreet roll will get you out in front of everyone before things escalate.
Cool. I passed the first one and the second.
I passed
Oh,
and then
sorry.
failed.
Okay.
Oh.
I meant like not 2 in a row, like 1.
Oh.
You get what I mean? Like 1, and then we'll see what happens. And then
Okay.
Right.
You get what I mean? But either way, both of you are kind of partway through the crowd. The lead Black Cloak, who, as I say, is quite a tall man. He's got soft white hair, sort of slightly mournful, sad eyes, and a very calm demeanor, steps out from the crowd. And as he does so, he doesn't have that overcloak on anymore. And everyone can see that he is wearing the garb of a Black Cloak, or at least the cloak, because underneath he actually has Theurg's robes, and a very obvious son of Prios. And he steps out and, with a very kind of faint smile at the Odavs, starts talking to them in very good Odav, and then turns to the Ambrian and sort of leans into him. Arindar, you're struggling because there's a group of Zarex in front of you who are they're not intentionally stopping you moving forward, but they are kind of like sort of huddled together and refusing to budge. But Elindra, you can step out into like the general area, and you are close enough to hear the Black Cloak as he steps up to the aggrieved noble and leans in and says, "My son, there is no need for this threatening behavior. Clearly your friend made a mistake, and he has sadly paid for it. But there is no need for you and your other companions to pay for his mistake as well. I will personally have some of my companions attend to him. We will try to save his life. Please, lower your sword." The noble kind of rounds on him and starts to say a few swear words, and then kind of, even in his drunken state, takes in the Black Cloak. Are you kind of remaining where you are at the front of the crowd now and seeing how this plays out? Or are you going to step in?
Yeah, so I don't want to. I don't want to insert myself into this if the Black Cloak is dealing with it, but I want to be close enough so that if the noble turns around and decides that he wants to go to the Odav after all, I can step in front of him.
You can just fucking tackle the guy or block him.
Yeah,
right?
it's essentially just quietly let him know that he would have to come through me.
Sure. The noble sort of says, noble blood has been spilled. I respect your office, but this is an insult that cannot stand. My son, I fear you have misinterpreted who has insulted who in this situation. I'm sure if your companion had been sober, he would not have decided it was a clever idea to disturb a sleeping bear. But he has done. And the hospitality of the Odavs forbids this kind of action being taken. If we assume this is an unfortunate accident and treat it as such, and if both parties can step away, then I'm sure the Odavs can see their way to not garroting every member of your party on the platform you see out below the bridge there. Which is what they do when their hospitality has been breached. We'll make sure that bear stays over on this side. Fria's teeth. He kind of rounds and like almost pushes the Black Cloak out of the way, but then kind of thinks better of it just before he does it and moves to the side and walks past him. Let's have a picture of him, actually, shall we? Because of the Black Cloak rather than any of the nobles.
Is this the one that we identified earlier as being the sort of leader?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Absolutely. Most of the Ambrians kind of start to peel off behind the noble, And the barbarians are slower to move back, but they do start doing so eventually. The Odavs are now in kind of talking to the Bayagar, who are sort of, the bear was quite animated through this and giving out some snarls and huffing noises, which you did not like the sound of at all. But the bear is calming now, and one of the Bayagar is kind of leaning over it and sort of whispering something to it while sort of ruffling, very, not even in a way you'd interpret as calming, but has his hand like dug properly into its fur and is kind of like working it through, like really ruffling the hair at the back of its neck, and sort of like handing it some berries, sort of feeding it, and it seems to be calming off the back of this. The Black Cloak is still stood there kind of talking to the Odavs, and sort of you see him pat one on the shoulder and so on. He turns as everyone is starting to disperse, and he looks directly at you, Elindra, and gives a kind of nod of thanks, kind of acknowledging that you were there and clearly reading your intentions.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
then his eyes also wander over to Father Anton, and he gives another little bow and says, "Father."
Father. Could I maybe make my way over at this point to get a little bit closer to engaging conversation?
Absolutely. Elindra, are you just going to kind of acknowledge this, or are you getting involved as well?
Like, I will remain standing nearby. I will kind of return the nod, but I don't
Sure.
have any particular thing to have a conversation with him about.
Absolutely.
I think I just want to open by saying something like, thank you for your efforts in keeping the peace there. It was a tinderbox for a moment.
It was, and one which many here could have been consumed in.
Yeah, I find myself a stranger to these parts, so it's always good to have someone who knows the customs better than I.
Stranger to these parts, but not to the north and the edge of Davakar, I believe, Father Anton.
Can I roll like contacts or cunning or to see if I know this person?
I don't know. I don't know how. Well, I don't know how famous the individual is, if you see what I mean. Let me do a very quick read up of his.
I hate when people know my name. Cheers is like my nightmare. Walking into a bar where it's like everyone knows my name.
No, you know what? I don't think you would know who he was. Certainly not by like looking at him. So I don't think so. Right? The Black Cloaks to know who people are. Yeah, really. It is.
But also to be kind of not known themselves.
Yeah, or very known and feared, as Baumello was, an individual that Elindra would not be aware of. But
did you say that he had like Theurg robes like underneath?
Under his and they are like just like father's robes. They're not high ranking.
Okay. Well, apologies. I cannot return the favor and address you by name.
I understand. I am Father Argaton Salage. I forgive me if my presumption to name you put you on the back foot, but the heroes of Thistlehold are easily recognizable if one's profession is to know these things.
Well, it is nice to make your acquaintance. Yes. Are you a resident of Thistlehold, familiar with these parts?
Not in the slightest. In fact, maybe talk, Father Anton. A short walk, perhaps, just outside the camp onto the main street. I know that isolated walks with Black Cloaks are not things that perhaps people want to take in the small hours of the morning, but I assure you, my intentions are they would be good for both of our groups.
I would very much like to take that walk with you, and I appreciate you allaying my concerns.
So one thing occurs to you immediately, like he's obviously a noble if he's House Salage. I would also like you to roll cunning at +5.
Okay, I need a 16. I roll a 6.
Salage is the first father's house.
Okay.
This isn't the first father. You have seen the first father. This is not him, and he wouldn't be randomly out here pretending to be a black cloak. But yeah.
Okay.
If I see those two kind of starting to make for the door, I'm going to shoot Ascarai a nudge or a glance and kind of.
Yeah, Ascarai is definitely gonna. He's not gonna like go up to the conversation, but he'll watch them very closely and probably follow to the edge of the camp or something like that.
Just to observe. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Could you give me anyone who does, could you give me a vigilant roll at +5?
Okay.
I got a 1.
I got a 19, but still just about makes it.
Both, as you do so, you kind of like Salage and and Father Anton kind of leave through the doors of the camp and just wander out onto the main street, which still has quite a lot of people on it. You know, it's the main street of a bustling settlement. There is even some still marketplaces selling food for travelers and people drinking and so on and so forth. You spot that just a short way down the fence on like the outside of the camp are a couple of the black cloaks who traveled in with Father Salage. They are, like you, leaning on the edge of the fence, watching the conversation. One of them glances over as you look at them and just raises a hand slowly and lowers it again.
I'll just nod.
Father Salage out on the main street, Anton. So you walk out into this sort of cold, it's safe to say, and stony underfoot of this main street. The main noises around you, you can hear kind of some animals in the distance. You can hear maybe even some the sound of wind in the trees as you're near enough either to the edge of the forest. But the main noise is people kind of drunkenly drinking and talking and laughing somewhere nearby. Father Salage turns and says, "I would not presume to impose on your any sense of ignorance upon you as to why you suspect myself and my companions are out here in the forest. And I assume that you would do the same for us."
I've very much learned to keep my business to myself and to, not view others with a huge amount of suspicion.
Well, that being said, Father, I think both of us know there is probably only one reason why a group of black cloaks and some famed fortune seekers and warriors would be out here in Davakar at the end of winter, gearing up for an expedition out into the forest.
Well, a few people have made assumptions about our reasons for this journey, and actually there are more reasons than perhaps the most obvious that springs to mind.
More reasons, but the same destinations? I do not need to try and interrogate you or question your reasoning, your motives, Father Anton. We intend to make for the Sun Temple and then beyond. Individuals who have made such a contribution towards the safety of fellow Ambrians. I don't wish to have any conflict or even a risk of conflict Are you heading west or east?
We are heading east.
And then north or further east?
We are heading further east.
Good. Then we have 2 different destinations in mind for now, at least. I will grant you and your fellows 1 day. We need to gather provisions anyway. Therefore, we will not be traveling along the river at the same time. Does this seem acceptable?
It is, although should our paths meet along the river or in the forest, then I would hope that there would be no issue or conflict there.
I hope this too, Father Anton. But we do have orders, and depending on what your intentions are out in the forest, if there is a conflict, again, I would hope it could be resolved peacefully by talking, as we are now, as 2 men of Prios. But we both know that sometimes in Davakar, well, it has been a pleasure to meet you. Give your companions my warmest regards. He kind of lightly taps you on the shoulder in a very friendly, almost kind of fatherly fashion, and walks slowly back towards the camp. The black cloaks leaning against the fence kind of fall in line behind him as he does so, and they disappear over to their side of the camp.
Okay. I will, make my way back into the camp area and presumably kind of like give everyone a nod to get them to all sort of gather around, and I will tell them basically that we have been made, like they know who we are, they have an idea of what our intentions are, they wanted to know which of the 3 places we were going to, and I have told them the truth because I suspect it does not end well for us if we lie and then we are found to be doing something other than that. And they already said that they are heading to the Sun Temple, so it is entirely possible that we will encounter them again on our travels.
They want us to go first, is it?
Yes, they will be taking a day to collect provisions, so we will be potentially leaving tomorrow. Well, the implication was that we should absolutely leave first thing tomorrow.
An army at Thistlehold, black cloaks behind us, Marvello doing something sketchy in the west, and some kind of witch moot on Carvosti. Oh, I don't think anywhere's safe.
Yeah, but we just need to keep heading east. That was a joke, Steo. Oh.
Maybe the mountains are safer than the forest.
Maybe you could just settle at New Earth more.
Yeah. So they're not here for us, but they also suspect that there may come a time when our paths cross and our
there was
objectives differ.
Yeah, and there was very much a quiet warning about what could happen if we meet and how they would hope to resolve any conflagration amicably. But yeah, that is not guaranteed in Davakar.
Yeah. We have no intention of seeing them again, do we?
I don't think we're going to have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, but we can hope.
I don't think anyone ever has intentions to meet black cloaks.
Well, we did that one time and it was messy.
Oh, God. I'm not going to sleep.
And Elindra doesn't even know the time before that when you met a black cloak.
Actually,
Messi
that's the
doesn't
one I
even
was
cover
laughing
that.
about.
I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't though. That was the problem.
No, they did. They met the real Barmello. They
Hey,
just
I've got my timelines
Yeah.
mixed over.
they met the real Barmello in the very first story arc, and then the second
Right.
one they met Barmello.
Got it.
Perhaps there's something I'm not understanding here, but well, maybe the Ambrians can shed some more light. But what do you expect their goal is? The goal of the church in all this is?
I'm not even
Well-
sure that their goal is necessarily the same as the goal of the church.
And which part of the church as well, given that there seems to be at least 2 fractures right now. And Tom?
Your guess is as good as mine. And Elindra, I agree with what you said as well.
If they're going to Fria Ligan, the most likely outcome is that they are part of this gold rush. Because
It's
imagine what the church could do if Symbaroum was seized on their behalf.
He didn't say he was going to Fria Ligan. He just said the Sun Temple.
And
but I accept that it is not too much further north from there.
the Sun Temple, and then not further east from there.
And he did mention east and then north, which would be where Fria is. I think, yeah, we can put 2 and 2 together on that one, I think.
Ilmendra did say that she'd unleashed, awoken something. Maybe they're just going there to deal with the immediate corruption.
That's naive and delightful, and I love it. And once again, to quote Elindra, we can hope. They're black cloaks, like we could spend all day trying to guess their motives, and it'll be something completely different. Maybe they're just going to find a really attractive cabbage.
Black Cloak's known for liking cabbages.
No one knows anything about what the black cloaks like. That's the problem. Look. Well, it looks like the direction we chose is the one direction where there isn't anyone else notable going at the minute. So I think we lucked out. Or I've just cursed us all.
That said, I don't know if this is just... There's a part of me, and I suppose it's the part that grew up far to the north, that thinks with a day's lead over a bunch of Ambrians, perhaps we shouldn't let them get whatever it is in Fria Ligan.
That's treasure hunter talk, Askrai. That gets people killed.
Everything here gets people killed. Black cloaks get people killed.
It's not just getting there before them, it's also doing whatever we need to do there within a day and getting out of there before they arrive.
I know. It's probably a horrible idea, but I can't help but think it. Who knows? Maybe them getting there before us.
That also carries with it the fact that it would have appeared to them like I've lied about our intentions, and lying to the Black Cloaks about my intentions is not somewhere that I particularly want to be.
9 black cloaks going to Fria Ligan does not make me want to go there more than no black cloaks going.
What it does, however, I mean, there's a gem of something I agree with Askrai is we might want to bend our course that way on the way back just to see where their bodies end up. At least call into the Sun Temple and get word if their party returned.
I think we mooted the idea of seeing how we were by the time we got to the Sun Temple and seeing if we thought we could take a trip north.
It was definitely mentioned, but like I think, like, well, it's a discussion for after New Earthmore, right? Like,
yeah, it was.
You don't know until you know. Yeah.
I think we got as far as like that might be a thing that we do, but we can't possibly decide that now.
Yeah, sure.
Sleep then, and an early start in the morning.
Sleep.
Don't think I'll be getting much sleep, but I'll try.
Well, the rumblings and the huffing from the bear gradually die out over the next 10 minutes, and the camp returns to a sense of normality. And in the morning, you wake up and see that quite a few people are kind of leaving. The Biogar, in fact, have already left, accompanied by their bear, clearly wanting to get out of here before perhaps the Ambrians start finding their courage again in the cold light of morning. As you do so, you can see that the Black Cloaks, close to Father Argaton's word, are still at their camp, still kind of gathering provisions. A couple of them seem to have gone out to buy things. None of them kind of don't see Father Argaton himself, and none of them kind of acknowledge you as you travel near to exit the camp. Perhaps intentionally, perhaps not. But either way, you leave the camp, and I'm presuming we're heading to where our canoes are docked. You get all your gear into them, aided by some of the assistants from the store where you bought them, and where the owner is quite happy to see you on your way, with a smile and a wave, and some assistants loading up. And then your vessels are floating free on River Malgamore, and it is running quite fast. It's a hard steer up river against the flow, and slowly but surely, as the fire starts to build in the muscles of your backs and your shoulders, Archbridge starts to retreat behind you, and ahead of you, the freezing waters of River Malgamore and the dark bows of Davakar to the east. And that, my friends, is Symbaroum for 2022. There we go. Lovely stuff. What a year it's been. So I'm going to do some promo now, and if anyone has any comments or questions, please throw them into the chat, and we will pop them up on screen and talk about them. In the meantime, links down below, links to YouTube and to Twitch. You're watching this on one of those sites. Please check out the other one. If you want to catch us live, we're on Twitch. If you want to see our vast library of previous actual plays, then check out YouTube. There's also links to our Patreon, to our Discord, to our social media. Please have a dabble in those if that's the kind of thing that takes your fancy. We run 2 weekly games at the moment. Wednesdays is Symbaroum, Mondays is Vaesen. Symbaroum will return, I think I'm correct in saying, on the 4th of January. We're only taking a week off. Vaesen, however, I believe doesn't come back until a week after that. Is that correct, John? The 9th
figured it was
January?
the 9th, yes.
Yeah, the 9th of January. Yeah, so that's when that'll return. So actually, before Vaesen returns, will actually be one of our monthly one-shots by the look of it. Every month we run different systems in self-contained stories. December we actually skipped due to boring reasons. So January should have 2 one-shots. It will have Alien, which I think we're tentatively penciling in for the 7th of January, Saturday the 7th. And then later on that month, it will also have One Ring. Both of those are sequels to previous one-shots we've run. So do check those out if you want to be fully up to date before you jump into the streams. Okay. That was my last promo of 2022. Good Lord. Yeah. Comments, questions, things. Stephen, I can't wait to see what gifts Simba Claus has stuffed down our chimneys. Needlessly sexual.
I mean, that's a you thing, really.
That's definitely a you thing.
I'm happy. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with me having that sensibility.
I was more just entertained with the idea of just walking around Davakar with a chimney.
Yeah.
For having presents stuff down it.
Steve, No Democracy Among Maggots is going to be the 4th part of the Alien RPG one-shot trilogy. It's actually not a bad shout.
That's
are you saying that my titling for the Alien series is needlessly overwrought and gothic? Because
I'm pretty sure that's
exactly
actually
what I'm going for.
That's actually my favorite Skinny Puppy album.
I was going to say, isn't that the working title of the Disco Elysium sequel? The original title for Disco Elysium was No Truce with the Furies, and it's
really?
not a joke if I have to explain it.
Or it could be the next sequel to the Amnesia series.
Yeah.
Amnesia, No Democracy Among Maggots. Yep. See that?
The second one was a Machinery for Pigs, right? Which is a fucking amazing name.
Again, fantastic Skinny Puppy album.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Now that we've all outed ourselves as skinny puppy people, Steve, there are extra costs if you want to use jet skis or go parascending. Yeah, there definitely would be. Corinthia needs her cut, you know?
It's got this amazing sort of like zip wire.
Yeah.
Which
You
costs
just zip wire all the way to New Earthmore, but Sam Dam Explorer's license microtransactions, yeah. See, that's how they get you. They said that the gathering part would be free LC, but then it never is it? Don't Kick Food. Nothing more grimdark fantasy than navigating government licensing. Yeah, absolutely.
True horror, Davaka.
I'm not even going to acknowledge this from like Baramo. Yeah. In canon, the bear's name is not Baramo. I'll give you that much.
Not Baramo is a very interesting name for a bear.
What's
Baramo is my favorite character.
What's his backstory?
Steve, I reckon other pet players should be able to spend an XP to negate the first XP to spend to drop them in it. Yeah, that's the PvP aspect of
I suppose
Symbaroum that we're going to get into.
Darkness points in Coriolis were like that, except it's the GM can get an XP to
just fuck you up. Yeah. Allowing final scene like in the Lord of the Rings when the party starts on the Anduin. Absolutely. Boating it away. Let's hope there isn't a golem behind you. I hope the group tries to tame a bear in the next arc. Well, it's gone well so far that you've seen.
Sounds like a John job to me.
Yeah, Aaron's gonna go from like to a full Beastmaster build because that's a thing that you can't have in this game.
I don't think there's anything like that.
There is
it'd be fun though, wouldn't it?
There is a boon for having a pet, and once I've done my next major XP spend, I was planning on getting that to legitimize Ferren.
I appreciate that. But, yeah,
I sort of presumed that Ferren was like up to now at least was only in the party up until like the day that Matt decides that he tries to eat your face off in your sleep.
How big is Ferren big now, or is he still cat size?
It's like a lynx or like a bobcat, like a
yeah. Well, we can see the picture compared to Aaron Dar, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think they range. They kind of range in size between lynxes and kind of cougars, you know.
Yeah, so not like a tiger, but
no.
Definitely enough that it could.
You don't want to eat in your face.
No.
Yeah,
that's going to have your face if it wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone who's interested, by the way, if anyone's watching out there, looking at for kind of actual Witch Hammer content, cats are liquid anyway, so it depends on the size of the box it's in. Absolutely. But if anyone is speculating, this entire episode was not penned by Fria Ligan. That was pure Matt from beginning to end, because it doesn't go into details of how you do the traveling, because, well, it wouldn't, because you can choose all kinds of different ways to do it. But I fancied, I thought Archbridge sounds fun. It sounds like that's the direction they're going. So let's do stuff and do things.
That was good.
Yeah.
Good job.
So
we would never have noticed if you hadn't have pointed it out.
I think it's worth mentioning these things for purposes of like people who are following along and like maybe watching this before they read Witch Hammer to run it. Like it's probably worth, I don't know. Or not, or does this kind of thing ruin it? You tell me, folks. Tell me in the YouTube comments you'll write in the coming weeks and months. Do you like me mentioning this kind of thing, or do you think it ruins? Does it kind of ruin the illusion, Michael?
Engagement. I like
I
it.
get the.
You see, like that's the differentiator, because the Twitch chat is all give the bear a name and puns, and the YouTube is all like legitimate game design discussion.
Yeah.
Other than that one episode where we asked everyone to tell us what their favorite nuts were.
We don't talk about that episode.
Was this in the great hazelnut?
This was a
yogurt
yogurt
scandal of-
related incident.
This was
yes.
a hazelnut yogurt related incident. Yeah,
Yes.
sure, I get that. Yeah.
I was going to say something important.
People new to the
and then
channel
it just
watching
gone.
this, like, what the fuck are they talking about? The fuck are they talking about? Well, what we're talking about, folks, is the end of 2022 for Telling Tales. So thank you for joining us, whether you are one of these wonderful players who are not maggots, or one of the lovely people out there on YouTube or Twitch or I don't know, wherever else this ends up, watching it in the year 2047 through your AR retinas or whatever the fuck you're doing, you future weirdo. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us through 2022. We'll be back next year in what will no doubt, as if the 21st century has shown us anything, it's just that every year keeps getting better and better. So 2023 should be an absolute blinder. We hope that you'll join us there, and we'll hopefully wrap up Witchhammer through next year. But it is an adventure that could go on a while, particularly this middle bit where you traipse all over the fucking forest. So, yeah, there we go. Have a good end of year, everyone. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.